Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Met After 8 Years Kyuubi and Build Harem Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Where is he? The third thought as he took a long drag from his pipe. It was October 10th and the festival in honor of the 4th was about to begin. Anbu was jumping from rooftop to find Naruto, however was nowhere to be found. Of course he would wander off when we were watch the fireworks. Anko's sweat dropped nervously and hoping that her little fox was alright. Anko reached for her headset to radio in, anyone find anything yet? She got 3 negatives. Inu radioed in, it just got worse guys, I lost his scent and it's starting to rain. Rain started to pour down in heavy droplets from the darkened clouds above. Everyone was running for shelter as the storm blew over the peaceful village of Konoha, starting off as a light drizzle that transitioned into a massive downpour in mere seconds. Merchants hurried to stow their merchandise away as gale force winds howled through the village, even the massive trees being swayed by the wind. God, where are you, Naruto? Kuma Bear began to panic more as each second passed. It started to thunder now as a brief flash of lighting was more than enough to illuminate a terror-stricken face that housed 2 light blue orbs. The owner of said face was none other than Naruto Uzumaki, a mere 8-year-old child with dirty blonde hair, 3 pairs of whisker marks on his cheeks and wearing a baggy white t-shirt and a pair of beige shorts. His small bare feet splashing through the puddle-forming streets. His clear blue eyes looking in every direction for a means of escaping his pursuers. His short legs carried him past a neon sign of a strip club that indicating that he just entered the red light district, a sleazy and corrupted location that definitely wasn't the place for a child. Yet he navigated the alleyways suggested that he had been through here many times before, enough times to know where all of the shortcuts and escape routes were. The rain kept up causing his blonde locks to drape over his eyes, obscuring his vision. As he continued his attempt to escape the mob that was chasing him. He knew it was useless, he knew it because they always caught him but his little legs kept him running, his instincts told him that he couldn't give up this time. They told him that if they did catch him there would be much more pain than all the others combined. Naruto kept running down the alleyways, zigzagging trying to lose the mob until he ran face first into a wall, his mind was running a mile a second. Naruto's heart literally stopped when he heard the faint sounds of the mob. Shit. They're going to get me for sure. As he looks for a hiding place, locking onto a dumpster, anywhere better than out in the open. He held his breath and hurried up and jumped in. Fuck. Where did he go? A masked villager asked, starting to get even more pissed off, running all over the village and now he was soaking wet. I'm pretty sure he went this way. Another voice ranged out. Naruto started quivering as he heard the voices and footsteps getting closer to his location. As the mob was getting closer and closer to Naruto, he started to freak out. All he could hear was whooshing in his ears, and his gut started to rumble. Shish. Did you hear that? As a tall man started to walk towards the dumpster and in a quick flip of the lid he saw his prize. Ha ha ha, thought you could outrun us, demon. His rough calloused hands reached down and grabbed Naruto out of the dumpster and threw him to the group of angry villagers. Why are you guys doing this to me? I didn't do anything to no one. Naruto cried out. We really need to find Naruto. Neko now on the verge of tears, so was the others. We know. We're just as worried as you are. Yugao. Inu says the last part just loud enough for her and the others to hear. A short gasp escaped his lips when the stranger's large rough hands gripped around his neck, as he found himself staring into dark gray eyes. Grr. Naruto was so frightened that he didn't even hear the low deep growl. The stranger threw Naruto into the group of villagers. So how shall we deal with the demon this year, guys? Questioned what seemed to be the leader of the mob this time. I have an idea, but you guys hold him down, said a tall man with dull pink hair, and wore a dark, loose-fitting kimono shirt which has a green, inner lining and sleeves which extend beyond his kimono shirt, that was being held closed by a simple obi which he wore along with a burgundy-colored pants, and a pair of simple slippers. What caught Naruto's eye was the necklace he was wearing, a simple silver necklace with a pink cherry blossom design on it. Naruto was being held down now. The man bent down and whispered, "Tonight you will pay for all the people you have killed, demon. You will experience suffering like we had, and tonight is the night that we will finish what the fourth has started, and I, Kazashi Haruno, will be your executioner." Kazashi took out one of his kunai from his pouch and slid it up Naruto's backside, cutting his shirt off. Kazashi quickly stabbed Naruto in the back and started carving. Naruto started screaming and kicking, trying to buck Kazashi off him. "Damn it, hold him still!" Kazashi yelled at the others. 10 minutes later, Kazashi got off Naruto and on his back was carved a bloody kanji for demon. He looks good on him, don't y'all think? The group of villagers started to snicker. Kazashi walked off. "I'm going for a smoke, you guys have your fun and we can move to finale." The mob approached Naruto, taking out all sort of weapons. The first blow was to his back. It was a wooden plank that was in the alley by the dumpster. Then the blows started one by one, never letting up in their bloody rampage. The sound of small cries and flesh being beat on echoed throughout the alley, but was covered up by the storm that was booming. Naruto on reflex curled up into a ball as he waited for the beating to end. He could feel his own bones breaking, a warm fluid-like substance running down his body. Time passed as the thunderstorm got worse. "Don't think that the Hokage will save you this time, he. A foot connected with his gut, knocking the air out of him and flinging him against the hard brick wall. Naruto cracked open his eyes slightly to see a lanky figure pull out a sword from within his cloak. He tried to scramble out of the way, but there was nowhere for him to run. The sword was stabbed through his palms above his head into the brick wall behind him, as a grunt of pain escaped his lips. The man reared back and pulled out kunai and shuriken and started playing target practice. Why did they do this to me? He thought to himself as he cried out each time a weapon lodged against his body, splitting open the skin, which only served to increase the pain as salty raindrops fell onto the wound. They never gave up or rested as two more kunai hit his leg, their stinging blows not giving any time for his healing to kick in. "Hey, don't hog him to y'all self, I want a turn," another man in a cloak said as he stepped forward. He wore the standard shinobi outfit, a green flak jacket and an eye patch over his left eye. "My name is Iwana Akame and you took my eye during your little rampage, so I'm taking yours." Akame walked slowly up to Naruto and stretched his arm out and ripped his eye out and squashed it in his palm. Naruto let out an agonized scream, but was drowned out by a big rumble of thunder. His wounds being aggravated by the acidic properties of the rain as he writhed in pain. "All right. Time for the finale," Kazashi said as he walked up to a hanging Naruto. Kazashi tore off his pants and undergarments, leaving him in the. He ripped the sword out of Naruto's hands as he fell on the cold cement floor. "You will tonight, Kyuubi, but before that we're going to enjoy stripping you of your dignity. And inflict as much pain and humiliation as possible." Kazashi chuckled darkly along with the others. Naruto refused to let the tears out as he was slammed brutally against the wall, gritting his teeth as they crucified him by his arms against the brick wall again. Streams of blood flowing from the point on his wrists that the katana were driven through and into the wall. He hung there as the leader motioned another figure forward. "And you pathetic meat bags call me a demon? Grr. Angel-chan, are you going to take me to heaven?" A blind Naruto thought he was saved. "You can hear me." Kyuubi was surprised that he could hear her, but was glad that he could. A container was shaken in his face. The darkness and the falling rain made it hard for Naruto to see what it was. Kazashi reached inside and pulled out a thin, slender metallic object which he now recognized as a senbon. There was no escape. The only thing left to do was to endure it. The senbon was stabbed into his lower back and suddenly he couldn't move his legs anymore. "I have removed your control over your legs to make it easier for us, but don't worry, you will still be able to feel the pain inflicted on you." As Kazashi chuckled darkly, Naruto's eyes widened when he heard the sound of zips being undone and the men around him dropped their pants onto the ground, their flaccid members hardening slightly already. Exclamation mark. Kazashi pulled out a cigarette and lit it. Watching the mob finish up with the demon, he noticed that it was getting late and his wife was going to be pissed off. Yo, I'm taking off. My wife is pissed that she wasn't able to participate in the fox hunt this year. Iwana just nodded as he watched Kazashi walk off into the early morning. Iwana walked up to and ripped the swords as roughly as he could out of the wall, causing more pain to Naruto. A bloody line from their initial point on the wrists all the way up to the middle of his biceps. A mixture of blood, shit and cum dripped out of his stretched rectum and onto the ground below him where the storm quickly washed it away. Naruto couldn't scream anymore, his voice having given out somewhere between the last two men. His head tilted down so they couldn't see the tears of shame that ran down his face, his mind barely holding on and his thoughts taking a turn for the worst. Single quote. I'm sick of living, all that's waiting for me is more pain and humiliation. I wish they would just end it already, kill me and be done with it. A hand roughly grabbed his face and brought it up, his dull cerulean eyes stared at Iwana. A wicked grin was set on his face, a grin that told the Jinchuriki that his pain was not over yet. Grabbing him roughly by his damp blonde locks, the man wasted no time in stabbing the kunai repeatedly into both of Naruto's eye sockets. Maniacal laughter escaping his throat as he stabbed, twisted and gouged out the remains of the eyeballs. Naruto's body fighting against its restraints as it was riddled with pain, his vision was gone but he could hear the sound of the men laughing away at his deformed state. To do this to a child so young and innocent, and humans dare claim me a demon. Quote. The voice of the warmth, it was back again. Not wanting it to leave him again, the young boy tried to communicate with it. Please don't leave me, Angel-chan. You're the warmth that always heals me and makes me feel safe. Are you an angel that has come to take me away? Kyuubi was surprised by the child's ability to form coherent sentences, though supposing who both his parents were then it was not much of a surprise. She closed her glowing crimson eyes as she frowned slightly at the question. No, Kit, I am as far away from an angel as darkness is from light. Naruto looked down disappointed at her statement, as his brain having already shut out all the pain and mutilations being applied onto his body by the men, all he cared about was conversing with the voice that had healed him whenever he was injured. Naruto Mindscape. Naruto felt a tug and realized that he could see again. He was in some type of sewer and not in the dead-end alleyway. As he looked around, he noticed blue and red pipes running up and down the hallway. Follow my voice, Kit. Naruto followed her voice till he reached a giant cage with a weird piece of paper with the word, seal, on it. Behind the cold metal bars of the seal, in the dark was a woman. She was sitting on the water in a meditating pose with her long reddish-orange hair flowing down over her body, with dark whiskers across her cheeks and small fox ears atop of her head. She had soft caramel skin that was covered up with her tails and a gentle face. It was none other than the infamous Kyuubi feared across all the nations, and she was waiting patiently for Naruto to show up. About time that you show up, so tell me, Kit, why do you not fight back against them? I know that you have been training in secret to prepare for your first year at the academy. If I were to fight back, I would just get into more trouble and they would use it as another reason to attack me. I try to ignore them but they continue to hit me and call me a demon. Naruto now looking more sad, so voice-san, tell me, what did I do? Kid, you can call me Q-chan, and you have done nothing wrong. Humans are disgusting little creatures, they fear those that are stronger yet lord over those that are weaker. They claim to be your friend yet they spread rumors behind your back, they claim they want peace yet all they know is war. Humans are petty, easy to get jealous over the littlest things, jealousy leads to anger, anger leads to hate and hatred is what gives me power. So what exactly are you, Q-chan? Naruto looked up at her with a puzzled look. Well, kid, I'm the embodiment of everyone's hate, and my personality is the result of it. Whenever there is hatred of malice in the world, my power grows stronger. Naruto got an even more confused look on his face than a look of worry. Kyu-chan, does that make me not human too? Kyu let out a long sigh. Yes kid, you are beyond that of any human. This will take a long time to explain. Luckily we're in your mindscape where time pass by slower. So please wait until I'm done explaining before asking your questions, got it? The small boy gave a small nod in understanding. The first thing that you should know of is your parentage. Your father was the bastard Yondaime that sealed me in here, and your mother is Kushina Uzumaki. She was my previous host. So now to explain what I meant earlier, you are not human. At least not entirely. Since you were conceived when I was sealed in your mother, some of my Yuki was siphoned off by the seal and used in the creation of your embryo. Basically it means I am as much your parent as the two worthless humans were. It also means that you are part demon. A Hanyu, half demon, if you will. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, your latent demonic blood has yet to awaken, which is why you hadn't developed anything beyond your whisker marks. Once your demonic blood kicks in, you will cease to be a Hanyu, as it will completely wipe every trace of human DNA from your system, thus rendering you a true demon, most likely a Yoko, demon fox, since my power runs through your veins. You may ask your questions now. Kyu looked at Naruto as she waited for him to process everything. When will my demonic blood take effect? Kyu now standing, she walked over to Naruto as she pulled his chin up to look at her. Not soon enough, I'm afraid. Originally it was supposed to be when you hit 18 years old, but with the amount of Yuki that I kept pumping to heal you over the past 6 years. I would say when you reach 12. Needless to say, that is too far away. The only way for you to survive tonight is if I forcefully transcend you myself. I will put 2 seals on you to change your appearance. The first seal you can deactivate anytime. This one will hide all of your scars, and the second one I do not want you to undo until I deem you strong enough to protect yourself, cause this one will hide your demon looks. Demon looks. What am I going to look like? Kyu chuckled to herself at Naruto's behavior. Don't worry so much, kid. You will have fox-like ears and maybe a tail or two, haha. Kyu stretched and told Naruto don't fight it as he nodded in understanding. Crimson tendrils of Yuki snaked out of Kyu and slithered their way over to the stationary Naruto. The energy felt warm and comforting as it embraced him. The boiling Yuki cloak engulfed him like a second skin of crimson energy. He felt it probe into every pore of his body and welcomed it as it flowed through his blood. Back in the real world. Looks like the demon's dead already. Quote. One of the men grunted in annoyance, having wanted to torture it some more. I guess so. Looks like our job here is done. Let's go home and celebrate, guys. Iwana laughed as the other men cheered. They turned around to leave and took 2 steps before a small cough was heard. It was barely audible above the pouring rain and roaring thunder, but they still heard it. They spun around and saw Naruto coughing out blood as his body shook. A low wheezing sound could be heard. After a few moments they realized what it was. The child was laughing. Not a happy laugh or an insane laugh, but a dark rising chuckle. His head tilted up and gazed at them with its bloody empty eye sockets. The sight unnerved them slightly. Their eyes widened when they noticed tendrils of red Yuki bubbling out from his body, allowing the body to fall onto the entrails-covered ground. They watched horrified as the same energy flowed onto the discarded intestinal tract and it slowly pulled it back inside his body, the wound slowly sizzling shut as if it were never there to begin with. The same dark chuckle still slowly rising as the boy pushed himself up of the ground, all his wounds healing at an extraordinary rate. Somewhere near the west gate, 4 figures landed on top of a rooftop. Kurenai looked up and sensed it. They all did. Naruto, they said in unsaid. They better not hurt my little fox. Anko let out a small growl at the end, earning her nods from the rest of the group as they charged in the direction where they felt the Nine Tails chakra. Back with Naruto. Now standing at a height of 5 feet 2 inches, Naruto chuckled as he popped his stiff joints before glaring at the men. He now had a lean athletic build, his skin had a darker tan than before, his whisker marks had deepened and got a red tint to them, his canines could be seen as he grinned at them, his hair had grown until it shadowed his eyes slightly, but the most glaring change was his eyes. The once sky blue eyes were now a glowing crimson red, with a black slit pupil right down the center. One man decided to run for it at that moment, something that Naruto did not let happen. He threw the sword that once held him in place at the man. The man fell face down with a sword sticking out of his skull. The remaining ones drew weapons from their cloaks, simple-looking tantos by the looks of them, and charged Naruto. He appeared in the middle of their rough formation and kicked Iwana to the side, where he impacted against a wall and slid to the ground. Naruto chose to concentrate on the one in the middle, as he was the only real significant threat at that moment. The other civilian charged with the tanto only to get punched in the face, breaking his nose and a couple of teeth as well. A crimson Yuki hand leapt from his back and grabbed a hold of the downward man and slash that had been aimed at his throat. The man violently stared to kick as he choked to death on his own blood. A groan signified that Iwana was up and about again. A Yuki hand shot forth and grabbed him by the head and yanked him forward. He gasped out when his throat impacted against Naruto's hand, his clawed fingers closing around the neck in a vice-like grip. He was brought face to face with a pair of rage-filled crimson eyes. Naruto dug his claws into the man's eye sockets and crushed both his eyeballs before forming a small sphere of Yuki in his palm. In my hand I hold a sphere of Yuki. I increase its corrosive property so that it will eat away at organic substances. Enjoy. Then Naruto charged the last man and formed a blazing orange-whitish flame in his hand before it morphed into a small blade-like shape. He then proceeded to slice off all the man's limbs, leaving him as a body with a head, the intense flames already cauterizing the wounds when it sliced through, thus preventing the man from dying of blood loss. You did an amazing job, Sochi. I can feel 4 signatures approaching fast, but don't worry, I sense that they're friendly. Kyu praised him from her cell. Naruto smiled as he tried to exit the alleyway. He collapsed just as he was going to hit the ground. He was caught. Don't scare us like that, was the last thing he heard before passing out. Everything was black and silent as a graveyard. It had been like that for 3 days now, no dreams, no noise, just darkness. Today was different though. Today, he started to hear things for the first time. Voices, talking, but it sounded like they were distant and underwater. He's waking up, he heard a feminine voice, then he faded out again. Later on that day, he heard more voices and tried to open his eyes, without success. Hana, Anko, Yugao, Kurenai took turns watching over him. Even the third Hokage had come by to visit a couple of times, unbeknownst to Naruto. They girls were very concerned for him and wished that he would wake up soon. This time, when Naruto woke up, he was much more coherent. He opened his eyes and looked around. He noticed 4 Anbu sitting in chairs that surrounded his bed, but he was still hooked up to various machines. He saw that his left arm and leg were in a cast. He also realized with horror that he had a needle in the back of his wrist. An IV. He began to pull it out, with some difficulty, using only his teeth, but managed to get it. He pulled off the heart monitors, when alarms started blaring. Naruto covered his ears in annoyance. Kyu-chan, why is everything so loud? Well, Sochi, that's because of your transformation, you have hearing like me. But don't worry, I'm sending some chakra to your ears until you adjust to your new body. While talking to Kyu, Naruto didn't realize that the girls were up and gathered around him. Naruto blushed at how close they were to him. "See-can. I help you?" Naruto asked bashfully. "What are you trying to do, Naruto?" The one with the dog mask asked. "I'm leaving cause I really hate hospitals, so can you guys help me?" Naruto asked with a foxy grin. The girls giggled at his antics. "No, we should wait for the doctor and the Hokage." This time it was the one in bear mask that spoke, and on cue the door opened and the Hokage walked in with a doctor. "Hey Naruto-kun, how are you feeling today?" The third Hokage asked with a small smile, seeing that Naruto was up. I'm feeling a lot better, Gigi, so can I leave? As the doctor finished with his checkup. He's fine, all of his bones have healed and can leave after I removed his casts. Naruto got a big grin on his face and started bouncing with joy. After the doctor removed his casts, he left the room, leaving the Hokage and the Anbu. Gigi, I don't have any clothes. Naruto chuckled and scratched the back of his head, realizing that he wasn't wearing anything. I got you covered, little fox. The snake-masked Anbu stepped forward and pulled out a scroll and handed it to Naruto. Oh, I almost forgot, Naruto-kun, these are your new bodyguards. They will be watching and taking care of you from now on. Naruto stood up and walked to the bathroom with the scroll that contained his new clothes. The girls blushed at the boy's modesty. When Naruto came out, everyone's sweat dropped and thought the same thing. He looks like a mini Anko. Naruto now wore a mesh t-shirt with a black trench coat that had an orange stripe that went down each side, beige shorts with a black belt that has tiny orange foxes, and to top off his look he wore black ninja sandals. Thanks for the clothes, hubby-chan, I love them. Anko now blushed at the suffix that he used for her name, as the others looked at her with jealousy on their faces that was hidden by their masks. Hokage's office. Naruto sat in front of the Hokage with a red face as he was forced by Neko to sit on her lap. Gigi, what did you want to talk about? The Hokage looked at Naruto and took a couple of puffs from his pipe. Well, first thing first, Naruto, I signed you up for the academy and you start tomorrow. Naruto looked at his grandfatherly figure and thanked him. Then the Hokage did a couple of hand signs and placed a privacy seal on the room. Next, I want to know who put those 2 seals on you, and do you know what they are? The third gave Naruto a serious look that said no goofing around and I want a straight answer. Naruto stood up against Yugao's wishes, but that was quickly dismissed when she saw him taking off his shirt. Naruto lifted his left arm to show the Hokage the seals that were on his rib cage. Well, Gigi, they are both henge that Kyu-chan put on me. The first one, she said that I can remove whenever I wanted and it hides all of my scars, and the second will take some time to explain. Naruto put his shirt back on and went over to sit back down on Yugao's lap. The next half hour, Naruto explained how Kyu saved his life and that her chakra turned him into a Hanyu, half-demon, and she doesn't want him to show anyone until he was strong enough to protect himself. The third Hokage was curious and asked to see it. Naruto shook his head no. Sorry, Gigi, I promised that I wasn't going to show anyone. The Hokage gave Naruto a reassuring smile and told him that it was alright if he didn't want to show him. The third did a few more hand signs and released the seal on the room. Go get some rest, Naruto, remember that you start school tomorrow. Outside, Naruto nodded and exited the office. As he walked out of the Hokage's building, his stomach rumbled. He turned around to ask his new guardians if they want to get some ramen with him, but there was nobody behind him. He looked down upset. Maybe they don't want to be seen with the village's demon. Don't think or say things like that again. You might be a Hanyu, but that doesn't mean that you're evil, and those girls are happy to be with you. Naruto's spirits lifted a little bit by what Kyu just said. As Naruto walked through the village to his favorite ramen stand, ignoring all of the hateful looks that was sent his way, he even thought he saw a few women blush and wink at him but didn't think anything about it. Naruto walked into Ichiraku's and sat down on his favorite seat. A feminine voice came from the back room. Sorry, but we're closed. The voice came but Naruto didn't move. As she came out, she was carrying a box and saw someone sitting at the counter. Didn't you hear me? We're closed. She started to get frustrated until she heard his voice. But Ayame-chan, I'm hungry. Naruto gave her his signature puppy dog eyes. Ayame turned around and tackled Naruto to the ground. I was worried that something terrible happened to you when I didn't see you in a few days. She cried out into Naruto's chest. Naruto stood up with Ayame still hugging him. He. Sorry to worry you, Ayame-chan, but I am really hungry. His stomach rumbled and she giggled. Sorry Naruto-kun, we're closed, but fear not, I got you covered. Naruto watched her as she finished closing down the stand. Ayame turned around and grabbed his hand and dragged him upstairs to her apartment. Make yourself at home, Naruto-kun, while I cook you something to eat. Naruto sat down at the table and told Ayame that he was going to the academy tomorrow and going to become the strongest ninja. Ayame finished cooking. I know that it isn't ramen, but I hope that you like it, Naruto-kun. She sat a bowl of pork cutlet over white rice. It smells amazing, Ayame-chan. Your food always smells so good. Naruto gave her a foxy smile as she blushed at his compliment. Hey Ayame-chan, where is the old man? Naruto asked in between bites. She smiled at him. Oh, he's out of the village getting more ingredients for our stand. Naruto just nodded at her statement and finished the food that she made him. Naruto gave her a goodbye hug and licked her cheek. Ayame's face turned bright red. Wyd did you lick me? Naruto gave her a foxy grin and told her that what Kyu-chan told him to do to the girls he likes and wanted to protect. Naruto was happy as he left her apartment. Ayame still stood in the same place as he left her with a hand on her cheek. He likes me. And wants to protect me. She spun around and skipped to her bed, happy that her Naruto-kun likes her. Naruto's apartment. Naruto reached his apartment with a smile on his face until he saw his door. His door was sprayed painted with Demon Child and Die Demon. Naruto just sighed as he unlocked and went into his apartment. He kept his apartment clean. His couch looked like it was drugged out of the garbage, and his kitchen table and chairs were mismatched and some of the legs were broke. Naruto went to his bedroom to grab his pajamas and went to take a shower. He came out wearing nothing but black pajama bottoms with red tiny foxes covering the fabric. Night, Kyu-chan. Naruto thought as he drifted off to sleep. His cerulean blue eyes slowly opened. He looked out the window. The sky was a midnight velvet, beckoned by the stars under the glow of a full moon. It was still dark, so he must have woke up around midnight. He rubbed his eyes and looked around and froze in panic. There were two figures on his bed. It was too dark so see who they were. There were two on each side of him and one below and one above, and he was in the middle of the four. A million things were going through his mind. Who are they? What do they want? Are they going to hurt me? He gave up and silently sobbed into his pillow. The sobs as he felt the bed move and looked up as one of the figures moved. I'm sorry, please don't hurt me, he silently pleaded into his pillow as the figure moved. The figure moved fast and Naruto felt a hand over his mouth and he whimpered as more tears came down. The figure started to pull him closer as he whimpered. He felt the soft objects touching his back but paid no attention. He was pulled tightly to the objects and he let out more whimpers, but they were not heard as he felt a hot breath on his back. Kyu jolted awake as soon as she heard her little one's cry. What's wrong, Sochi? She was confused cause she didn't feel any hostile intention. Kyu-chan, there's a couple of people in my bed and they might hurt me. Naruto sobbed even more into the stranger's hand. Don't worry, Sochi, they're your personal guardians, they won't harm you, so please calm down. Kyu actually smirked when she smelled arousal on both of them. Naruto, my name is Yugao Uzuki, said the ninja holding him as she breathed on his ear, sending of tangles down his spine. I love you, and will not allow anyone to harm you, now let go to sleep. She said and started nibbling on his earlobe. She took her hand off his mouth but he still didn't speak. Naruto vision have gotten used to the dark and he turned his head around and saw the woman. Her violet straight hair reaching down to her waist and had beautiful chocolate brown eyes, her skin was a creamy with a U-shaped face. Just go back to sleep, Naruto, she said and started kissing his neck and cheek again as he closed his eyes and felt another pair of arms wrapped around him. Naruto turned to look at the second person that was with him. She wore a fishnet t-shirt with a dark skirt and a heart-shaped face, with brown eyes. She had her hair done up like a pineapple and sported a light tan. Just go back to sleep, Naruto, she said as she kissed his cheek. Naruto let out a small purr. Anko and Yugao giggled as they laid down with Naruto. Did you mean what you said earlier? Naruto asked nervously. Yes, we did, Naruto-kun. We promised to protect you and never leave you. Anko told him as she rubbed his cheek to get him to purr more. See, what did I tell you, Sochi? Now get some rest, you have a big day tomorrow. Naruto sat up looking down at the two girls that were in his bed. He gave them both a foxy smile and bent down and licked both of their cheeks. Anko and Yugao both snuggled up to Naruto and they all slowly fell asleep. Naruto never been happier in his life. Naruto woke up to find 4 figures talking on his bed. He then remembered the events last night. He rubbed his eyes and sat up cutely, and glanced at his alarm clock that read 6 o'clock a.m. One of the girls noticed and made a move to hug him but was stopped when she was grabbed by her wrist. Let go, Kurenai, Yugao said and struggled. Not till we're done talking. Kurenai spoke with anger. She had long raven black hair and crimson red eyes. He looked over and saw a face he knew. It was Anko. She had purple hair tied up in a fan-like ponytail and some light brown pupil-less eyes. Next to her was another girl. She had long brown hair tied in a ponytail with 2 thin bangs at her side. Also a round face with big black eyes. She also had 2 red fang marks on both her cheeks. We all made a deal. We don't touch Naruto till morning, Hana said with a frown. You and Anko broke that rule, said Kurenai in a disappointed tone. Naruto, what do you think? Asked Kurenai and everyone looked at him. Under all their glares he was filled with one emotion, fear of not knowing what they wanted. His bottom lip started to wiggle and his eyes started to water. Then the next thing that happened made the 4 girls melt with guilt. Naruto's eyes got wet and he ran to the bathroom yelling, please don't hurt me. And locked the door and cried. All 4 girls ran to the door and said at the same time. We're sorry, Naruto, they said as they heard more sobs. They felt beyond terrible for making him cry and scaring him. 15 minutes later, Yugao was sitting up on the bed with her leg in front of her in an unclosed diamond shape. Naruto was right between them as Yugao hugged and comforted him. The others were looking at the ground in shame for what they had done. Naruto, we're sorry for scaring you, Anko said as she looked back at the ground in shame. Do you feel better, Naruto? Yugao asked as she heard Naruto sniff. Sniff. Yes, Naruto said. Anko, being Anko, came over to Naruto and licked his cheek just like he did to her last night. Naruto just looked up in shock as pink tinted his cheeks. Anko, can't you see? As all Anko heard before Anko out of nowhere licked Yugao across her mouth and up her cheek. Anko, you lick my lips, Yugao said as she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Does it matter where I licked? Anko said with a smirk. Yugao, with rage in her eyes, cocked her fist back ready to punch. Before she could, she felt a light grip on her wrist and looked down to see it was Naruto's hand. Naruto smiled at her, then licked her cheek, then he did the same to Anko. Both of the girls just froze in shock with pink tints on their cheeks. See? This is what I'm talking about, both of you bond with him so much, Kurenai said with a pouting face. Yay, but what about us? Hana asked, feeling down about being left out too. Naruto being caring as he was got up and walked to the 2 girls. He then motioned for them to lower their heads. They did as told and lowered their heads. Naruto suddenly moved his head forward and licked Hana's cheek, then Kurenai's, leaving them both frozen and grins plastered on their faces. I'm going to go take a shower and brush my teeth, he said, then walked to the bathroom, leaving the 4 dumbfounded. All right, Foxy, we will make you something to eat so when you get out you can have breakfast. Anko hollered to Naruto as he made his way to the bathroom. 10 minutes later, Anko was getting a little worried. Naruto, hurry up or your food is going to get cold. Then Naruto stuck his head out and asked the girls to close their eyes. Hana just sat down to start eating when she asked, why? Are you? She teased him but didn't expect his answer. He. Yay, I forgot my clothes in my room. Kurenai finally sat down with the rest of the girls to eat and told Naruto just wrap a towel around his waist. Naruto nodded and a couple of seconds later he emerged from the bathroom in nothing but an orange towel with little foxes on it. Anko and Hana started to drool at the sight that was before them. Just as Naruto reached his room to get dressed, the girls started to talk with each other. "Did you guys know that he had abs?" Hana asked in a low tone as the others just shook their heads no. Naruto came out of his room wearing black Anbu pants and a mesh t-shirt. Naruto sat his trench coat down before take a seat himself. "Wow, the food looks and smell amazing. Thank you guys, you really didn't need to cook." Kurenai laughed and told him that they couldn't have him eating ramen all of the time, as the others just nodded to agree with her. Yugao was the first to finish eating and started to wash the dirty dishes that started to pile up. "So Naruto, are you excited for school today?" she asked as Naruto finished eating. "Yeah, I just hope that I'm able to make a friend today and learn as much as I can so I can protect the people that are precious to me." School. Naruto waited in the hallway to be called into class to introduce himself. Toga Yagari called him in, and once Naruto entered the classroom he felt everyone glaring at him. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, it's a pleasure to meet you." Naruto said. "Alright, go find a seat so I can get started on today's lesson," Toga said as he started to open a book to read from. Naruto looked around and saw the only seat available. As he sat down he turned to the girl next to him and greeted her, but she didn't pay him any attention. Naruto listened to his teacher explained how Konohagakure was founded, and before he knew it the bell rang for lunch. Naruto's sweat dropped as he remembered that he didn't pack a lunch. Naruto watched as the other students got their lunch out and started to eat. He turned to the girl that was sitting next to him again and tried and talk to her. "Hi, what's your na?" But before he could finish she stood up and walked away. Just as she was passing him she spoke, "My parents told me not to associate with the demon." Naruto's head jerked up to look at her when he noticed most of the students were giving him dirty looks. Naruto looked down sadly, then his stomach rumbled. Naruto chuckled and scratched the back of his head as the students whispered insults at him like, "Stupid demon," and, "I hope he starves to death." Naruto stood up and was about to leave until 4 Anbu members shunshin into the classroom. Toga was curious as to why there would be Anbu in his class. "May I help you two with something?" Toga asked as he sat his lunch down. "Why, yes, we're here for Naruto Uzumaki," the one wearing the bear mask said. "I hope that they will take him away for good," a student said to another. "Kuma-chan. Inu-chan." Naruto ran and gave them both a bone-crushing hug. "Well, because you forgot your lunch today, Naruto-kun." Hana smiled at him under her mask. "You guys are the best." As he took the bento box, "How's everyone treating you, Naruto-kun? Make any friends yet?" Then the look he gave them both was sad. "No, everyone hates me and calls me a demon," Naruto said just loud enough for the 2 Anbu members to hear. Hana and Kurenai both looked at the classroom and unleashed enough killing intent to make the academy students to sweat a little bit. While Kurenai was unleashing her ki on the class, Hana looked down at Naruto and asked which ones treated him badly and called him names. "I bet Anko-chan would love to play with them at the T&I." At this the students started to panic a bit, knowing that they might be sent to torture and integration to be played with. A girl that sat in the back row smiled at the blonde interact with the 2 Anbu. Kurenai noticed and the girl looked away blushing. "Okay, Naruto-kun, we have to get going. Enjoy your lunch and we will see you later," Hana said to now happy blonde. She hugged him and ruffled his hair before shunshined away. Kurenai gave Naruto a hug and whispered in his ear to ask the girl that was in the back if she would like to eat lunch with you. "I see when you get home today, Naruto-kun." And just like Hana, she shunshin away. Naruto looked up at where the girl was and slowly made his way up to her, ignoring all of the dirty looks and cruel whispers that the other students gave him. "May I eat my lunch with you?" Naruto asked shyly. The girl just nodded at him. Naruto plopped down next to her. "Hi, I'm Naruto, what's your name?" The girl blushed at him and smiled. My name is Izumi Uchiha, it's nice to meet you. Naruto gave her his signature foxy smile which made her blush even more. Naruto dove into his bento box finding a note that sat on top. Naruto, we hope that you have a wonderful day and try to make some friends. P.S. Hubby says she packed you some of her favorite treats on the bottom. Your special Anbu. Izumi looked over his shoulder to read the note. Naruto and Izumi ate in silence which she didn't mind at all. Okay, let's see what special treat she packed for me. Naruto said to himself, but Izumi overheard him and was curious as well. Naruto's sweat dropped at what he saw. Anko packed 10 dango sticks in the box. Izumi saw and started to drool at the wonderful sight. Naruto saw her and offered her some. Are you sure I can have as much as I like? Izumi looked at Naruto with joy. Well, yeah, I don't mind sharing with a friend. Naruto gave Izumi another one of his smiles. The rest of the day was a blur for Naruto, happy that he made a friend today. As he was zoning out, he decided to see what Kyu-chan was up to. He closed his eyes and when he opened them he was standing in front of her cell. Hey Kyu-chan, why does it look like a sewer in here? As he finished talking he now was standing inside the cage. Kyu-chan, where are you? I can't see. Then out of nowhere Naruto was tackled by a red blur. Kyu snuggled up to Naruto and started to purr and lick his cheeks. Naruto giggled and asked her to quit, but Kyu didn't listen to him. She was happy that he came and visit her. Well, for your first question, Kit, this is your mindscape. You have absolute control in here because it is your mind. Answered Kyu, getting an understanding nod from Naruto. Give it a try, Kit. Think of anything and it will appear inside your mind. Naruto gave it a prompt nod before he closed his eyes. The damp sewers that once was slowly faded away and gave way to a beautiful meadow. The meadow had vibrant flowers scattered around and a soft hill with a tall apple tree next to a small house. The sky was set in a beautiful sunset, the same sunset Naruto watched every day on top of the Hokage monument. The cage that once held the her was turned into a thin white collar with a tag that said seal. It seems that my Sochi also has a beautiful imagination. Kyu said as she gazed longingly at the gorgeous scene created by Naruto. Thanks for my makeover, Kit, but it's time for you to go home. The bell just rang and come and visit me more often. Kyu said as she was getting teary-eyed. Naruto gave her a hug and gave his farewells and faded out. Naruto noticed that majority of the students left already. Izumi walked with Naruto until they were outside and gave him her farewell before heading to the Uchiha compound. Naruto smiled that he learned a little and mostly that he made a friend today. Naruto's apartment. Yugao and Anko were in the kitchen making dinner for everybody while Hana was trying to watch television on Naruto's cracked screen. Hey Hana-chan, where's Kurenai at? Yugao asked as she looked into the living room for an answer. She had to pick something special up for Naruto. Hana snickered as she thought of the gift. Naruto reached his apartment and went inside. He was surprised to say the least. He actually had people waiting for him and it felt like a family. Welcome home, Foxy. Anko yelled as she ran to give him a hug. They all sat down at the table to eat the meal that Anko and Yugao had cooked for them. Naruto told them all about his day. They were pissed off that most of the students treated him like that. Then Naruto went on to tell them about his new friend. Yeah, her name is Izumi Uchiha and she's really nice and she loves the dango that you packed for me, hubby-chan. All of the girls smiled that he made a friend and jealous of her too. It was getting late and the girls took turns putting their pajamas on. Anko came out of the bathroom with a t-shirt showing nothing but her legs. The other girls all had the same idea. Kami let her be wearing something underneath. Naruto came out wearing just his boxers as he was about to climb into bed. Kurenai stopped him. Naruto, you have to wear something other than your boxers. Naruto looked down and sighed as started to head for the sofa. Where are you going? Hana asked as she just got comfortable in the bed. Well, I don't own any pajamas so I was going to sleep on the sofa. Naruto said, not wanting to offend Kurenai even more. Kurenai giggled. Don't worry Naruto-kun, I got you some special pajamas that you can wear. Kurenai handed Naruto a scroll, and as he shut the bathroom door to get changed, Kurenai looked at the others and told them that they're going to love it. A few minutes later, Naruto came out looking a little embarrassed. Naruto stood in front of his bedroom wearing a baggy orange fox onesie. Kurenai-chan, I think it's a little too big for me. As Naruto said that, all the girls looked at him with stars in their eyes. Kawaii! They all screamed as they tackled Naruto and carried him to bed. Naruto instantly started to purr as Yugao rubbed his cheek. As Naruto slowly fell asleep, Kurenai whispered loud enough for the others to hear. I told you guys you would like it. Naruto opened his eyes to see that he was standing outside of Kyu's cabin. Naruto called out for her, but she didn't answer, so he went to look for her. He finally found her out back constructing a training ground. Hey Kyu-chan, what are you doing? Naruto asked as he sat down on the patio watching Kyu finish up. Well Sochi, I set up a training regiment for you. Every night you will come here and I will train you in chakra control and taijutsu, and don't worry about being tired when you wake up, I've taken care of it. Naruto nodded in understanding as he walked towards Kyu. So when do we start? Naruto asked as he started stretching. Well, we can start now. I'm going to be teaching you the Kitsune fire style, because I'm not only the queen of all demons but I'm the fire elder as well. Maybe later I can take you and train with the other elemental foxes. Naruto perked up at hearing that he might meet other demon foxes and learn from them. Alright Kit, the exercises that you will be doing after school to increase your strength and endurance is that I want you to run around the training grounds 30 times. Next I want you to do 100 push-ups followed by 50 sit-ups. I will teach you the beginnings of the Kitsune style while we're in here at night. Naruto looked at Kyu like she was trying to kill him. Are you crazy? I can't do that much, it'll kill me. Kyu chuckled at him and showed him the basic stance for the taijutsu. Morning time. The sun beamed through Naruto's window, waking him and the girls up. Naruto and Anko mumbled the same thing, 5 more minutes. The other 3 chuckled at their behavior as they got up to get wash up and cook breakfast for their little fox. Naruto looked down at Anko that was resting on top of his chest. She gave him a smile that sent a shiver up his spine. Well, it looks like it's just us here, Foxy, as she reached up to stroke his cheek. Naruto leaned into her hand and started to purr. Anko started to stroke his other cheek as well. Naruto's eyes went wide. Anko nn not be both cheeks. Then Anko felt Naruto's growing member on her thigh. Naruto started to whimper slightly. Please Anko, stop. Anko smirked and started to go faster. Unknown to her, Naruto started to leak the Kyu's chakra. The girls felt the demonic chakra that was coming from Naruto and ran to his room thinking he was in danger. Naruto opened his eyes and now they were crimson red. I said stop. Naruto growled out as he shoved Anko just as the others opened the bedroom door. Naruto's head snapped to the people that entered the bedroom and all 3 rushed over to Anko to see if she was alright. They looked at him with worried expressions. What happened here? Hana was able to get out as she felt the killing intent. Naruto saw all of their looks and thought that they were pissed at him. Naruto bolted out of his apartment and kept on running. He didn't care that he was still in his pajamas. Naruto ran past Izumi and her mother not even notices. Izumi called out his name as he passed and her mother asked who that was. That was the boy I've been telling you about, Ka-san, but there's something wrong. Izumi said with a worried look on her face. Her mother smiled and suggested that they follow him and see if he was alright. They arrived at an empty playground and saw Naruto sitting down crying. As they walked closer to him, they felt the killing intent that he was putting off. Naruto, or why you alright? Makoto asked, knowing that her daughter was overwhelmed by the killing intent and was unable to speak. Naruto looked up and saw a fair-skinned woman with long, straight black hair with bangs hanging on either side of her face to roughly frame her cheeks and black eyes. She wore a simple dark purple blouse with a red plum skirt and a pair of ninja sandals. Makoto looked into his red eyes and saw fear. Makoto did what she knew and ran up to Naruto and picked him up and started to console him. Naruto's eyes returned back to the normal blue and started to drift to sleep as Makoto continued to rock him back and forth and whispering soothing words into his ear. Makoto asked her daughter if she knew where he lived. Izumi shook her head sideways. Sigh, alright, let's get him home, we can ask him when he wakes up. Makoto said as she stood up still holding onto Naruto. She grabbed her daughter's hand and shunshined home. Naruto's apartment. Anko woke up and saw that she was in the living room on the couch. The events of earlier flashed into her head. She sat up and only saw Yugao looking at her. Where is Hana and Kurenai at? And is Naruto alright? Anko asked, looking for the two females in her little fox. Yugao gave her a glare. What happened earlier, Anko? Anko looked down ashamed what she did to Naruto. Is he alright? She asked as her eyes started to get watery. We don't know. We felt the Kyuubi's chakra and by the we got to the room you were thrown by the Kyuubi's chakra, then he ran out. Hana and Kurenai are looking for him as we speak. Anko started to tell Yugao everything that aspired that morning. Yugao was furious with Anko and a little jealous, first that she was about to have her way with Naruto and second she was able to grope him. A few minutes passed in pure silence. Suddenly the door opened and the two other women walked in without Naruto. Hana and I followed his chakra to a playground and then his chakra signature vanished. Kurenai said to the two people that were sitting in the living room. So what exactly happened today? Anko was embarrassed to retell the story, but she told them every detail. After she told them what happened, they sat in silence for a couple of minutes before Hana walked over to Anko and slapped her. You couldn't keep your hormones in check. You had to go and hurt him and we have no idea where he's at. Hana said as she started to get upset and Anko began to cry also. Uchiha compound. Makoto laid Naruto down onto the living room couch, and she finally getting a good look at what he was wearing and giggled at the cute fox onesie he had on. Izumi seen the onesie also, but she blushed and thought that he kind of looked cute in it. Mother and daughter sat down and turned on the television to pass the time before Naruto woke up. As the duo watched TV, Naruto was having a bad dream. He was reliving that awful night all over again and started to whimper and cry. Izumi got up and rushed over to him and tried to comfort him but was failing miserably. Naruto started to cry louder now and now. Makoto walked over to help. As she approached Naruto, he went puffed, putting Makoto and Izumi guards up. Laying where Naruto was now, he looked different. He had two fox-like ears and a tail. Makoto walked slowly up to him and kneeled down next to him. She motioned her daughter to do the same. I know that you have feelings for the blonde and it looks like he has bad dreams a lot, and if you want to comfort him in the future, watch what I do to calm him down. Izumi nodded that she understood and watched patiently. Makoto got up and placed Naruto's head on her lap and ran her hand through his hair, whispering soothing words at the same time. Izumi watched as Naruto started to calm down a bit. She seen his whiskers and reached her hand out to rub his cheek. A couple of seconds into the rubbing, Naruto leaned into her hand and started to purr with a small smile on his face. Makoto giggled as she looked at her daughter. Looks like you're unnatural at this and might not need any help in helping your boyfriend. Izumi's face went redder than a tomato. Ka-san, he's not my boyfriend. Izumi blurted out, embarrassed at the fact of Naruto being with her. Makoto noticed the time and got up to go make dinner. Ka-san, where are you going? And what do I do when he wakes up? Izumi started to get nervous about being alone with Naruto. Makoto laughed at her daughter's behavior. You be fine, I'm going to start cooking dinner, and if he wakes up in the meantime, tell him dinner is almost ready, but seeing that he's calmed down, go get him some clothes to wear. She told her daughter as she made her way towards the kitchen. Izumi let go of his cheek, getting a small growl from the blonde as she made her way towards her bedroom. Izumi rummaged through her closet trying to find an outfit for Naruto to wear. She came back to the living room with a navy blue short-sleeved shirt with a high collar with the Uchiha crest on the back and a pair of white shorts. She returned to the living room and sat the clothes down on the coffee table and sat down with Naruto's head on her lap. She began to rub his cheek again while watching TV. She was rubbing his cheek not to calm him down but to hear him purr. Makoto walked into the living room and smiled at sight. Her daughter was playing with the boy's whiskers as she watched TV. Kushina, I wonder how you would react to our children's feelings for one another, she thought before making her presence known. Naruto slowly opened his eyes seeing Izumi smiling as she watched television. Izumi-chan, what or why you doing? Naruto stuttered out seeing the position that he was in. Hearing Naruto speak snapped Makoto out of her thoughts. Glad that you're finally up, Naruto-kun. Dinner will be done in a few. I see that Izumi got you some clothes, so go clean up while I finish dinner. Naruto sat up and nodded at Makoto. He went to pick up the clothes and looked at Izumi for directions towards the bathroom. He followed Izumi to the bathroom without speaking a word. Once they arrived, she told him where the towels were located and she turned and leave. Naruto entered the bathroom and his eyes grew big as saucers. Wow, it's almost as big as my apartment. Naruto thought as he started to undress. Was up. As he was washing up, he started to talk to Kyu. Hey Kyu-chan, are you up? I have some questions and I was wondering if you could help me. Naruto heard a yawn and sweat dropped a little knowing that she had just gotten up as well. What can I do for you, Sochi? Kyu asked as she made her way back towards the house. Well, I was wondering if you could do anything about my nightmares, and if you could get rid of them. Kyu sat down on the couch in a thinking position. I really can't control them because of how much the seal restricts me, but I do have a theory. If you ripped a little piece off, I might have a little more control. Naruto Mindscape. As Naruto sat in the tub, he closed his eyes and entered his mindscape. He walked into the house and saw Kyu sitting in the living room watching the events that happened all while she was asleep. You know that Makoto woman was like your mother's sister. They were really close, and if you ask, I bet you she tell you more about your mother. Kyu said as she finished watching the events that aspired. Naruto was shocked to hear that news but decided to put it off till later. Alright, let's hope this will work. Naruto said as he picked up Kyu's collar and ripped a piece of the corner off. Kyu felt the different changes that she did as well as take over his body. She gave Naruto a kiss and told him that it worked and that he should get out of the bathroom and eat dinner with his girlfriend. She chuckled at the reaction that she got from him. Hehe, I can get that snake woman back for hurting her, Naruto-kun. Dining room. Izumi was helping her mother set the table for dinner when her little sister came in. Hi Ka-san, Nei-san, I'm home. Satsuki said with a wide grin on her face, until she saw an extra place setting at the table. Ka-san, are we expecting company? Satsuki asked as she looked at the dinner table. Makoto got another mischievous grin on her face, being able to tease her oldest daughter some more. Why yes, Satsuki-chan, your sister's boyfriend is having dinner with us. He should be finishing washing up, she said as she watched her daughter's face turn bright red. He's not my boyfriend. Izumi mumbled loud enough for the others to hear. Naruto walked into the dining room in the clothes that Izumi gave him, but he had the blue shirt on inside out. Izumi giggled as she walked up to him and whispered in his ear that he had the shirt on inside out. Naruto laughed as he took off the shirt to fix it. All of the women blushed at the sight and the two youngest Uchihas wondered the same thing. Why does he have scars all over his body? While Makoto looked down, saddened knowing somewhat on how he got them. They all sat down and started to eat, and Satsuki was telling the others about how her training was going. Go on, Sochi, ask her about your mother. Kyu said as she sat on the couch watching everything on the TV. Makoto ba-san, I know who my mother was and your relationship towards her. So can you tell me more about her? Like what was she like? Makoto was stunned by the question. Who told you? She asked nervously, knowing that the third Hokage made it AS rank secret. Kyu-chan told me about them and that you were like a sister to my mother. Makoto sighed and told Naruto what Kushina was like and that he looks a lot like her. It was getting late, so Naruto decided that it was best if he went home. Before he left, he turned around to Makoto and asked her if it was alright that he wore the Uchiha crest and that he didn't want to cause them trouble for letting the demon wear it. Naruto-kun is the clan head. I say that's alright, and don't worry, you're part of my family now, right? Oi. Naruto's face lit up as he dashed and gave Makoto the biggest hug. Thank you, boss-san. Naruto licked her cheek before turning to Izumi. He gave her a hug and licked her cheek as well. Thank you to Izumi-chan for everything that you did. Naruto said as he rubbed his cheek against hers, letting out a small purr. Naruto left the Uchiha compound. Makoto thought that licking people's cheeks must be an Uzumaki thing, cause Kushina used to do the same thing to her when they were younger. Makoto saw that Izumi was still blushing and decided to tease her some more. So do I have to be worried about being a grandmother? Izumi's face got redder and Makoto teased her more about little blondes with the Sharingan running around the compound, and that was too much for her to take and fainted. Naruto's apartment. Naruto entered his apartment and it was dark. He sighed knowing that he was alone again. He made his way to the bathroom to brush his teeth and put his pajamas on. He crawled into bed feeling exhausted, not really wanting to train with Kyu-chan, but he knew he had to in order to get stronger, so he got comfortable and drifted off to sleep. Naruto slowly woke up as the sun shined through his bedroom window. Naruto rolled over to go back to sleep until he heard noises coming from the kitchen. He got out of bed and the only clean clothes was the outfit Izumi had given him last night, so he put on the Uchiha's outfit and made his way out of his bedroom. Naruto saw all of the girls whispering to each other when Hana noticed him first. Good morning, Naruto-kun, Hana said as she watched him make his way towards the bathroom. As Naruto closed the door, Yugao leaned in and whispered to the other girls, how do we tell him that since he hurt Anko-chan with the fox's chakra, the council said that we can't watch him anymore? Yugao asked, hoping that one of the others had a way to deliver the bad news. I got an idea, but you three will have to go along with it. Anko said, nodding confidently about her plan. Naruto was finishing up in the bathroom when Kyu decided to make herself known. Hey kid, I want to talk to them, especially Anko. Naruto thought about it for a second and decided that he didn't have any objections. Kyu jumped up, happy that she will give them a piece of her mind. Alright Sochi, channel some of my chakra to your finger and trace your seal on your stomach. Kyu explained. Right as Naruto was about to do it, had a couple of questions. You won't hurt them, will you, and how do I regain my body back? Kyu reassured Naruto that she wouldn't hurt them, just make a point and when she's done she'll give him control back. Naruto made his way to the living room where everybody was sitting. Kurenai was curious on his attire and questioned him about it. What's with the new outfit, Naruto-kun? Now the others were curious as well. Naruto scratched the back of his head and told them that he needed to do laundry and that this was the only clean outfit. Izumi-chan gave it to me to wear when her and Makoto boss-san found me yesterday. Naruto said with his head down as he remembered the events that happened yesterday. Naruto suddenly jumped up, shocking the girls. What are you doing? Naruto-kun, Hana asked as Naruto lifted his shirt and channeled chakra in his finger. Well, Inu-chan, somebody wanted to talk to you guys. Naruto said as he traced the seal as Kyu instructed him to do. Before anyone could protest, they felt a surge of the Kyuubi's chakra. They looked at Naruto's eyes changed to red from the blue that they always were. Naruto-kun, are you alright? Yugao asked as she stood up, getting ready for an attack. Kyu gave her a devious smile. Sit down and be quiet, don't speak until I'm down, am I clear? Kyu growled out the order, getting nods from the girls. First things first, I'm not Naruto-kun, I'm the Kitsune no Yoko. Kyu paused as she looked them as their eye got big as saucers. Kyu began speaking again. I wanted to tell you four that you really hurt Naruto-kun, especially you trying to corrupt my Naru-chan. Kyu growled and narrowed her eyes at Anko. Kurenai narrowed her eyes at Kyu. Exactly how did we hurt him? I understand Anko, but how did we? Kyu let out a small growl. Well, for starters, when Naruto uses my chakra he can sense emotions, and when you three came in all he could feel was fear and anger from you. Kurenai and the rest of the girls tilted their heads down in shame. Well, enough of that. I need to punish Anko for trying to take advantage of my little Naru-chan. Kyu said with a grin that sent shivers down everyone's spines. Kyu dragged Anko to the middle of the room. Strip, Kyu ordered as she went looking for ink and a brush. When got back to the living room she saw Anko start to remove her underwear. You can leave those on, Anko, Kyu said as she scanned her body from head to toe. Kyu instructed for her to lay down as the others were curious as to what the Kyuubi was going to do to Anko. As Anko laid there as Kyu wrote on her stomach, Anko was nervous as to what the Kyuubi has planned for her. Alright, I'm almost done, got to seal it, Kyu stated as she went through multiple hand signs. Demonic pleasure incagement. Kyu yelled as she slammed her palm on Anko's stomach. Anko let out a painful scream and laid there panting from exhaustion. What exactly did you do to me? Anko asked in between pants. Kyu gave her a devious grin. Well, I made it where you won't be able to feel pleasure down there until Naruto or myself removes the seal. Kyu told Anko to get dressed as she went to put the supplies that she used away. As she returned she saw Anko sitting looking depressed and smirked knowing that she tested the seal out. Alright, now that's all out of the way, I'm going to give Naruto control back so you all can apologize to him, Kyu said as she lifted Naruto's shirt to retrace the seal. Right before she finished she warned all of them not to hurt her Naru-chan again or the punishments will be harsher. Naruto's head dropped and when he looked back up his eyes were back to his. Naruto gave them all a small foxy grin showing them that it was him instead of the Kyuubi. I hope that Kyu-chan didn't hurt you guys, Naruto said in a low voice. Yugao noticed and reassured him that she didn't hurt any of them. Yay, she didn't hurt us, we just had a little talk. This time it was Hana who spoke. Hana nudged Anko to tell him why they're not able to look after him anymore. Anko got the hint. Naruto-kun, we won't be able to look after you, we have to go on a long-term mission, so we won't get to see you graduate from the academy, Anko said as the others just nodded their heads to confirm it. Naruto now was upset his family wasn't going to see him pass the exams. You better pass so when we'll see you next time we can go and celebrate, Kurenai told Naruto to try and cheer him up. You have nothing to fear, Naruto, the exams are 2 years away and I'm positive that you'll pass, Yugao said as she got up and kissed his cheek before heading towards the kitchen to make dinner. As they sat down to eat their last meal together Kurenai asked how things are going at the academy. It's alright, I guess the only friend I have is Izumi-chan, everyone else treats me like an outcast. The girls were upset that he didn't care for school and even more upset that the students only treated Naruto bad cause their parents did. Naruto finished eating and put his dishes in the sink and made his way towards the bathroom to get ready for bed. Naruto climbed into bed wearing his onesie that Kurenai got him. As he got comfortable his door opened and the girls came in wearing their pajamas. They crawled into bed and cuddled up to Naruto. I'm going to miss this, Naruto muttered as he slowly drifted off to sleep. It had been 2 years since he seen his special Anbu, but he was invited every Friday for dinner at the Uchiha compound. Makoto told Izumi that she would have to make the first move if she wanted a relationship with Naruto, so she asked him out and went out a few times, but always ended with Naruto apologizing for how the villagers treated her because of him. Baka, I don't care what they think, as long as I'm with you, Izumi said the last part under her breath so Naruto didn't hear her, but he did and was surprised. The sun was setting as Naruto and Izumi reached the top of the Hokage monument. It still surprised Izumi how beautiful it was up here. That's when Naruto licked her cheek. Izumi's face turned red. Why did you do that? MMMPH. Naruto captured Izumi into a kiss. As he was about to pull away, Izumi wrapped her arms around him to deepen the kiss. Izumi parted from the kiss as she gave him a soft smile. It's about time that you kissed me, Izumi stated as she sat down with Naruto as they watched the sunset together. Izumi leaned back into Naruto. Are you ready for the exams tomorrow? She asked as she looked over her shoulder at him. Yeah, I'm going to pass with flying colors. Naruto told her as he wrapped his arms around her. They sat in silence for the next hour as Izumi fell asleep on top of Naruto. Naruto noticed and picked her up gently as he made his way towards the Uchiha compound. He arrived and tucked Izumi into bed and gave Makoto a kiss on the cheek before heading home. Graduation. As he entered the classroom, he saw Izumi and went to go and sit by her. Good morning, Naru-kun. Izumi said as she kissed his cheek. Good morning, Izumi-chan. Did you sleep well? Naruto asked with a foxy grin. Izumi blushed at his comment. Why, yes, I did. My pillow was really comfy. Izumi stated, giving Naruto a small peck on the cheek and getting a small blush from Naruto. Toga came in the classroom with Hiro-sensei. Today is your graduation test to become ninja. The glare he sent the class made some of them shiver. Okay, today's test will have 3 parts: written, taijutsu, and ninjutsu. Toga said as Hiro started to hand out papers. The first test will be the written test. The test contains 25 questions. You have 45 minutes, begin. Naruto turned his test over and didn't realize that there was a genjutsu over it. Izumi saw but didn't say anything, but it didn't sit well with her. As the students finished one by one, brought their test to Toga and went to sit back down as Toga began grading the tests. An hour later, Toga finished grading the papers. Okay, here are the top 5 scores so far. Toga said as he looked down and read off the names. Izumi Uchiha, Yuno Gasai, Nagisa Furukawa, Kei Nagai, and Ayato Kirishima. Naruto couldn't help but feel depressed that his name wasn't called. Don't worry, Naru-kun, I'm sure you did well. Izumi said as she winked at him. Hiro cleared his throat. Alright, the next part will be taijutsu. You will be paired up and spar. It does not matter if you win, only if you show enough skill to warrant genin status. As the students made their way to the school's training ground, Naruto and Izumi watched as the first few fights were pathetic. Out of the entire class, the only ones with taijutsu skill were Nagisa, if he could control his emotions better, and Yuno, if she would stop being so meek. The last match was rather anticipated. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Izumi Uchiha. Naruto himself was pretty excited about this match. They were the first and second of the class, with Naruto barely leading taijutsu and ninjutsu and Izumi leading thrown weapons, book smarts and genjutsu. Begin. As soon as they were told to start, Izumi charged with a punch towards the face. Naruto sidestepped, grabbed and twisted Izumi's wrist and attempted to knee Izumi in the ribs. However, much to Naruto's surprise, Izumi jumped to the side and allowed her body to twist with his wrist. While in the air, Izumi brought her foot down in a heel drop, aimed at Naruto's shoulder. Just before the hit connected, Naruto released Izumi's wrist. Both jumped back to give some space. You didn't think that would work again, did you? Naruto just continued to give the Uchiha a blank stare before shrugging. Izumi got sloppy. Her poor attempt at a right hook was negated when Naruto went low, knocking the raven-haired girl's feet out from under her. However, the girl recovered quickly and avoided Naruto's backhand. The two exchanged several blows, after almost a minute of constant fighting. Izumi finds herself on her back. She sees Naruto coming in for a drop kick to the chest, but she was having none of that. Izumi kip up, narrowly avoiding the blonde's foot. Being to the side, Izumi spun and lands a backhand to Naruto's face, at the same time as Naruto's right hook catches Izumi's stomach. Before either recovers, they hear Hiro whistling to signify the end of the match. The entire class was speechless, including the instructors. Hiro could hardly believe what he had just seen. No matter how many times they saw them, 2 academy students shouldn't be that strong. The 2 Chunin moved to a smaller area and began discussing the fights. They were only there for a few minutes before Shiro stormed off, rage on his face, and Toga came back to the group. Toga began reading off his sheet. Top 5 taijutsu are Naruto Uzumaki, Izumi Uchiha, Ayato Kirishima, Gasai and Nagasa Furukawa. Now we'll take a half-hour break for lunch, then we'll move on to the ninjutsu test. As the students made their way back to the classroom to eat, as Izumi and Naruto was about to enter the classroom, Hiro came up to them. Naruto, can I see you for a minute? Hiro looked at Naruto. Hiro and Naruto walked away to talk in private. So what did you want to talk about, Hiro-sensei? Naruto looked up at his sensei. Well, Naruto, I wanted to wish you luck on the finale part of the exam. I shouldn't tell you this, but you failed your written exam and you did well on the taijutsu part, but if you fail the next part you won't become a ninja. Hiro said as he put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto made his way back into the classroom and up to where Izumi was. Naruto sat down and sighed. I hope that I will pass the next exam, cause I be screwed if I don't. Naruto said as he laid his head down on his desk. Izumi looked at Naruto out of the corner of her eye. You will do fine on the next part, we trained together for months to prepare. Izumi said as she held out a bento box that she had made for him. Naruto took the box and smiled at her. Thanks Izumi, you're the best. As he dug into the lunch that she made for him. Toga clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. Alright, now is the last part of the exam. When we call you, please go to room 300 to take the next part of the exam. When you pass you will come back here and wait. Toga said as he got nods of understanding from majority of the students. Naruto sighed again, knowing that he was going to be called last. Hey Q-chan, are you awake? Naruto heard a small snore as he chuckled to himself. He heard Izumi's name being called as he snapped out of his thoughts and wished his girlfriend good luck. 15 minutes later, Izumi came back with a big smile on her face as she sported her headband around her neck. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto heard his name being called over the intercom. He gave Izumi a foxy smile. I guess I will see you soon with my headband too. Naruto told her as he gave her a small peck on her cheek. Yeah, you better, cause I wouldn't want a weak boyfriend, Izumi said teasingly. Naruto entered the classroom and stood in front of his two senseis. Toga looked at him. Alright Naruto, we need you to perform the Henge no Jutsu, Kawarimi no Jutsu, and the Bunshin no Jutsu, so anytime that you're ready Naruto. Naruto smiled. Alright, here it come. The blonde boy said as he started gathering chakra for the jutsu. Henge, he said as smoke poured from his form and covered him in a blanket. As the smoke left the boy, a new form was in his place, the form of Izumi Uchiha, Naruto's girlfriend. Very good Naruto, now let's opt for Kawarimi. Hiro said as Naruto nodded and started the jutsu, and soon thereafter changed places with a chair. Very good Naruto, Toga said as Naruto whooped for joy as he now was excited that he was going to pass. Now for the last one, Bunshin. Alright, one more and I will be a ninja. Naruto said as he looked at Toga, who had a smile on his face. I'll make so many Bunshin that I will have an army of ramen-eating warriors. Naruto said as Toga laughed. Ha ha, Naruto, you only need to make 3 Bunshin. He said as Naruto disregarded the information given to him. As the chakra swelled around Naruto as he started channeling what he thought to be the correct amount of chakra for the jutsu and let it loose, Hiro made a hand sign under the table as the seal he placed on Naruto glowed. Bunshin no Jutsu. For a moment there was nothing, not even a cricket chirping from outside the room, and then there was one and only one poof. As the smoke dispersed, the glimpse of a half-dead clone laid on the floor. I am sorry Naruto, but you fail. Toga said with a frown. Naruto looked at his creation and then cancelled it. Wait, I'm just nervous, can I have one more try? Naruto protested. Hiro looked at Toga and shrugged his shoulders. Alright Naruto, you get one more try. Toga explained. Naruto started to channel chakra again, and just as last time Hiro made a hand sign to activate the seal. There was another poof, and when it cleared Naruto looked at the ground to see 2 more lifeless clones. I'm sorry Naruto, maybe you be able to pass next year. Toga said as he stood up to go congratulate the newly genin. Naruto made his way out of the academy upset. Would Izumi break up with me cause I'm weak? Naruto asked himself as he exited the school grounds, until he heard someone calling him. Wait up, Naruto, Hiro said as he jogged up to him. Let's go and get some ramen, my treat, there's something that I need to tell you on the way. Naruto nodded as he walked with his sensei. Naruto, you left in a hurry that neither Toga-sensei or myself could tell you of the makeup test. Hiro told Naruto as they made their way to the ramen bar. What makeup test, sensei? Hiro smiled down at Naruto. Well, out of everyone that failed the exam we get to pick one student to do the makeup test. They made it inside of Ichiraku's and placed their orders when Hiro explained what he had to do. Well, Naruto, the Hokage and myself came up on a test. You are to steal the forbidden scroll from the tower and bring it to me and you will pass. What? How am I supposed to steal it? Naruto shouted out in protest. That's not my problem, but if you don't think that you can do it, tell me now so I can give another student the option to pass. Hiro said with a smirk as he left enough money for him and Naruto's ramen. Naruto ran out of the ramen stand and yelled at Hiro, alright, I will do it. Hiro turned around and told Naruto where to meet him at and what time. Naruto returned to the counter to eat more ramen, as he was deep in thought. Kyu finally woke up. Hey Naru-chan, what did I miss? Kyu asked as she yawned. Well, a lot to be honest. I failed my genin exams, but Hiro-sensei said that I could have a makeup test if I steal a fake forbidden scroll and deliver it to him without being caught. I pass. Naruto explained to Kyu. Kyu growled a little as she re-watched the events of the day. You know that Hiro is tricking you into stealing the scroll, that's probably why he made you fail the exams. Kyu pointed out as Naruto scoffed down his fourth bowl and started on his fifth. So what should I do, Kyu-chan? Naruto was now worried that he really won't become a ninja. Kyu giggled at his antics. Don't worry, Naru-chan, but I want you to steal the scroll and read it so I can teach you everything in there plus more. Kyu instructed as she sat on the couch watching Naruto. Academy. Izumi was getting worried about Naruto, that her imagination came true. Toga walked in the classroom and sat his clipboard down. Congratulations everyone on passing the genin exams, please come back here in a week to get your jonin instructors. Izumi looked around hoping that Naruto would come through the door any minute now. Sensei, what about Naruto? Izumi asked nervously, hoping that he was in the restroom or talking to another teacher. Toga looked at the Uchiha. Uzumaki didn't pass the exams, so don't worry about him not getting this information, so good luck everyone on your shinobi careers. Toga told all of the newly genin as he walked out. Izumi was confused as to why Naruto didn't pass and she needed to find him fast. Knowing him, he's probably at Ichiraku's or on top of the Hokage monument. Izumi thought as she made her way out of the academy. Izumi looked everywhere for her boyfriend but no luck, so she walked home hoping that he was there talking to her mother. As Izumi opened the door to her house, she was tackled by her mother. I knew you would pass, and where is my future son-in-law at? Makoto teased her oldest, but saw sadness in her eyes. What's wrong, Umi-chan? As Makoto picked her daughter up in a hug. Naruto didn't pass the exams and I can't find him anywhere, Izumi said as she tried to hold back her tears. Well, knowing Naruto, he will be here around dinner time, so in the meantime tell me all about your exams. Makoto said to comfort her daughter, but she was just as worried as she was. Izumi went through her day and told her mother about how there was a genjutsu on Naruto's written exam, but cheered up when she told her about her taijutsu match and how strong they both were and how they impressed everyone there. Makoto smiled at her daughter as she started to make dinner. Woods outside Konoha. He was tired and sweaty, but he had done it. He had stolen the forbidden scroll of seals from the Hokage Tower and had learned one of the techniques in it like his teacher Hiro had told him. He had just failed his genin exam and was very downcast. His sensei Hiro had told him of the alternate exam. That's why he was now here, practicing the Kage Bunshin technique, and he had just got it right. To say that Naruto Uzumaki was excited would be an understatement. Naruto sat down for a quick breather before looking at the scroll again. Let's see. I've got the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu down. Next Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Bunshin Bakua, Haraishin no Jutsu, Rasengan. I'll copy these down to learn later, he thought with a large grin plastered on his face. No need Naru-chan, I'm recording everything as we speak so I can teach you later. Kyu told him as he kept reading the techniques for each jutsu. After reading all of the techniques, he quickly skimmed through the next part of the scroll and saw something that would forever change his life, though he didn't know it at the moment. Right there on the scroll was his name written, to Naruto Uzumaki. Curious as to what it was, he studied it for a bit and noticed that it was a blood seal. Now many would have thought that he would not have such advanced knowledge, but he knew this because the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, usually delivered his monthly allowance to him in such scrolls. Therefore identifying one was a menial task for him. He quickly nicked his thumb with a kunai from his equipment pouch and smeared the blood over the seal while pouring chakra into the scroll. Immediately, another scroll appeared. He was curious about it but put it into his pocket for later. As he stood up beginning to wonder whether or not his sensei would show up, he heard someone enter the clearing, huffing from having run a long distance. "You," said an angry voice from behind him. He quickly turned around and smiled when he saw his special Anbu. Hey hubby-chan, I thought that you were out on a mission," Naruto said as he looked at her puzzled. "Baka, you're lucky that I found you," shouted the Anbu in the snake mask. "I only managed to learn one of the techniques on the scroll but now I'm going to pass me for sure," grinned an enthusiastic Naruto while pumping his fist into the air. Now this confused Anko as she pondered, he's been training, no wonder he's so exhausted. But what's he talking about graduating? Hiro-sensei told me about the makeup test, continued Naruto eagerly. He said if I learned a technique from the scroll I'd pass for sure. Naruto, began Anko, but she was quickly cut off by the sound of 6 kunai heading towards her. She quickly turned around to deflect the kunais. She stifled a gasp. "Hiro, why?" She breathed out venomously. Hiro simply snorted and said, "I see you found the gaki for me. Congratulations, you just signed your death warrant along with the demon gaki over there." Anko got into a defensive stance same as Hiro. "Shit, if I don't play it right this Anbu will kill me," Hiro told himself trying to get a level head. Naruto could not believe what he was hearing. The teacher who was always smiling at him wanted to kill him. He started to panic and almost broke down until he heard the voice of Anko telling him, "Get away from here Naruto, just don't let Hiro get his hands on the scroll, he's using you to get it for himself." Naruto was shocked, but made to get up and run. Before he could make but 5 steps, Hiro took 6 shuriken from his equipment pouch and flung them at Naruto at an incredible speed. Anko saw the attack and tried her best to remove Naruto from its path but in so doing ended up with 3 of the weapons in her back and shoulder while the others missed and lodged themselves into a nearby tree. "Why do you protect him?" sneered an angry Hiro. "After all the things that this demon did you still stand by his side. Why do you protect a demon that killed hundreds of innocent people?" "Stop it Hiro," exclaimed Anko, "you know we're not supposed to speak of this. It's forbidden for a reason," stated Anko. She tried to stop Hiro from telling Naruto about the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. Hiro however had no intention of stopping and continued on. For years he had wanted nothing more than to wring Naruto's neck or stick a kunai in his throat. Now that he got his chance, he definitely wasn't going to pass it up. "Naruto, do you know why everybody hates you? Why everybody treats you so bad like you did something, why nobody wants to be your friend? Or why your special Anbu had to go off on a mission? Of course you don't know, it's an S-class secret after all. Listen well you little demon, 12 years ago the Yondaime didn't kill the Kyuubi, instead he sealed it into a baby. And do you know who that baby was? Can you take a guess or are you too dumb to figure it out?" Hiro said as he mocked Naruto. You Naruto are the demon, your special Anbu, never had a mission. The council deemed you unsafe after you injured one with the Kyuubi's chakra. Naruto looked at Anko for the truth, she didn't respond. Kitty's telling the truth on this one, when I spoke with them I felt like they were hiding something. Kyu said as she sat on the sofa watching the event unfold. Why did you guys lie to me? Naruto yelled out at Anko but she didn't respond again. Tell me. Naruto now was getting upset and started to channel Kyu's chakra. Anko looked at him. Yay Naruto, we weren't allowed to watch over you anymore cause you injured me with the Kyuubi's chakra, but you need to calm down or we both are going to get hurt. Anko said, trying to convince Naruto to stop channeling the Kyuubi's chakra. Hiro, seeing his chance, took a Fuma shuriken from his back and flung it full force towards the paralyzed Naruto while screaming out, D. No! Shouted Anko as she pushed as much chakra as she could into her legs and was a blur as she sped towards Naruto. The next few moments looked like a blur to Naruto as he looked up after feeling a warm liquid fall on his face. Why? He stuttered out. Why did you protect me? I'm just a demon. Naruto was at a loss for words. He knew that Anko cared for him as a friend, but to go to such lengths was unimaginable to him. Having never been shown such compassion, I protected you because you're precious to me. She said. You and I are a lot alike, Naruto. We're both orphans, and pranksters at heart. We both grew up alone and ended up seeking attention in the wrong way. If only I'd seen it, how much you were hurt. Growing up alone, I could have helped you more because I've been in your situation. But I didn't and I'm sorry, Naruto. From now on I swear to protect you, Naruto, to help you as much as I can. Anko told him as she let a couple of snakes slither from her coat sleeve. Naruto watched Anko get up and charge Hiro. Naru-chan, you'll not get proper training. If you give me control I can take you from this village and train you right, and I will make you king of all demons. Naruto thought about it. Do you really mean it? I can become that powerful? Kyu grinned. Yes, you can, only if you decide to take my training, and do what I say. Naruto lifted his shirt and traced his seal as he watched Anko fight Hiro. Naruto's eyes changed from blue to red and as Kyu stood up she saw Anko's snakes bite Hiro. My little babies just hit you with a strong paralysis drug. Anko said while looking at Hiro. Let's see how you will hold up at the TNI. Naruto, grab the scroll and we can head back. She said as she lifted Hiro over shoulder. Kyu looked at Anko as she picked up the forbidden scroll and threw it at her. No, I will not go back to that village. Everyone sees me as a demon, so I'm leaving and not coming back until I'm strong enough to protect myself. Anko caught the scroll, almost dropping Hiro in the process. But Naruto, you can't leave the village. We can talk to the Hokage and see what we can do about getting proper training. If that's what you want, just please come with me. Anko now was pleading with the blonde in front of her. Looks like she has backup coming. Noticing the extra chakra signatures approaching fast, Kyu turned around and looked over her shoulder. Don't worry, I'll be back someday. Kyu said as she jumped away. Shit. I need to go after him. Anko thought just as Hana landed next to her. Where is Naruto? The Inu Anbu asked. He found out that we lied to him about the being on a mission and he said that he won't come back until he's strong enough to protect himself. Hana stuck her nose in the air. Wait, Neko-san is almost here to help you. I'm going to go after Naruto. Hana jumped off the same way Naruto did. Naruto location. Kyu had finally made it out of Fire Country and losing the Anbu trail that she had. It had started to rain when she found a small cave that she was going to use as shelter. As she entered the cave she smelled a few foxes and blood, so she hurried to see the situation. When she made her way to the back of the cave she saw an injured female fox trying to defend her two baby kits from a hungry-looking wolf. Kyu instantly pulled out a kunai and lodged it in the skull of the wolf as she made her way to the mother fox. It looks like you're not going to make it. Kyu told the injured fox as she was patting her head. The female fox licked Kyu's hand as it took its last breath. A single tear formed in the corner of her eye as she looked down at the dead fox that was laying in her lap. Then an idea came to her. I know I'm in Naruto-kun's body, but I hope that this works. Kyu started to do multiple hand signs as she channeled her chakra into the dead fox. Demon art, partial life transfer. Kyu yelled out as her hands glowed red. After a few minutes, Kyu's hands stopped glowing as she started to pant. As she saw that the fox was breathing and a small collar appeared on the fox with a tag that said seal, it looks like it worked. She decided to give Naruto's body back to him and explain everything that happened. Naruto opened his eyes seeing that he was inside a cave with 3 foxes. Kyu-chan, what happened and where am I? Naruto thought. Then the adult fox looked up at him and grinned that kind of sent a shiver down his spine. Well, Naru-kun, after you let me have control of your body, I escaped Konoha and we're currently outside of Fire Country. The fox said as it looked up at scared blonde boy. How are you talking to me as a fox outside of my body? Naruto asked with big eyes as he picked up the fox to inspect it. Kyu laughed at the boy. Well, when I came into this cave to seek shelter from the weather, I came across a wolf that killed the mother and was going to kill the little ones next, so I killed the wolf and performed a jutsu to transfer part of me into the dead fox. Kyu said as she walked up to the little kits. It looks like we have kids now, Naru-kun. Kyu joked as she picked them up to take to him. He looks like we have kids now, Kyu-chan, but I always thought that it would be later, so what shall we name them? Kyu was shocked that Naruto thought that she was serious, but now she felt her heartbeat faster. Does he actually want to have kids with me? She was so focused on the thought that she didn't hear Naruto calling her name. Kyu-chan, I said, since there are 2 of them, let's name one each. Naruto said as he picked up both of the kits. Naruto, were you serious when you said that you wanted to have a family with me? Naruto gave her a puzzled look. Of course, Kyu-chan, I had feelings for you since we met, but I never thought we could have kids since you were sealed inside me. Naruto's face now red, realizing what he just said. Kyu purred as she rubbed against Naruto's leg. Do you really want them to be ours? If so, we can blood adopt them. It would change their appearances and they would be able to use chakra like us. Naruto didn't hesitate a second before he jumped at the idea. Yeah, of course I want them to ours, plus having them knowing how to use chakra will help to protect them from any harm, so how do we do it? Naruto and Kyu blood adopted both of the kits and decided to rest for the night and start traveling tomorrow. Naruto opened his eyes to see a person walking into the cave. He looked around and saw that both of the little foxes were cuddled up against him. He quickly jumped up in front of his kids with a kunai drawn. What do you want and who sent you? Naruto demanded as he was now looking a completely red head. Kyu, why are you and how are you walking around as a human? Kyu giggled as she dropped fresh firewood and the now carved wolf meat onto the ground. Well, Naru-kun, I can change from fox to human in your mind, why can't I do it outside? Kyu shot a question back at him. I guess that you have a good point. Naruto said as he put the kunai back into his holster. Kyu smiled at Naruto as he was currently standing in front of their kits to protect them. You know, we still haven't given our kids names. Kyu said as she transformed back into a red fox and went to bring some of the meat to the kits. I guess that you're right. As he sat down next to them. After they ate, Naruto watched as the 2 little foxes played with each other. Naruto clapped to get their attention, which they came running. The solid white one jumped up on his lap as he picked her up and looked at her. You have beautiful eyes, how about we call you Kaga? Naruto said as he got a yip of approval from the red and blue-eyed fox. Kyu giggled at them as she looked down at the solid black fox with red eyes. I guess that means I get to name you, huh? Let's see, how about Shion? Kyu asked, hoping that the little fox liked her new name. Shion jumped up and ran around her mother. I think she likes her name. Naruto chuckled as he stroked Kaga. Naruto finished cooking the rest of the meat as he prepared for the girls. Hey Kyu-chan, when are we going to train? Naruto asked as he placed the food in front of each of his daughters. Well, Naru-kun, I'm thinking of a new method that involves our children now, but since the life transfer jutsu and the blood adoption took more than I thought, so for today we will rest and by tomorrow I will have a training program ready to go. Naruto looked at her worriedly. Okay, just don't put too much strain on your new body, I would hate to lose you. Good thing that Kyu was in her fox form so Naruto wouldn't see her blush from his comment. I'll be fine, let's get some rest. Kyu said as she and her two daughters curled up next to Naruto and watched them drifted off to sleep. I can get really used to this. Kyu thought as she snuggled closer to Naruto as she dozed off.